Welcome to Pario Magazine, where I chat with individuals who have a desire to create. Today, I'm joined by Australian Twitch streamer and content creator who has been expanding into the world of philanthropy. Welcome to Pario Magazine, Panda TV.
Hello. I don't know if people see this, but yeah, hello, I'll say.
Yep.
Very visual when I talk, so sorry.
So we're here today to chat about your journey through the world of sort of Twitch streaming, content creation, and now expanding into charitable endeavors. Before we dive into that, though, do you want to give our audience a little intro as to who Panda TV is away from the gaming station and Twitch channels?
Yeah, I guess like I'm just a rat kid from Western Sydney. Started streaming about 13 years ago, and I've been lucky enough to do it for quite a while now. Yeah, unfortunately, I got a pretty standard Western Sydney upbringing. It's not always the best, but yeah, here I am, 13 years later, and I get to do some pretty cool stuff.
Brilliant. How and when did you sort of first discover the passion for gaming?
So my parents went to prison when I was quite young, so I just sort of grew up around mates and I'm 38, I'm 39 this year. So internet cafes were a thing back then, and that was really the only place you'd hang out in Parramatta. There was like a pool hall and an internet cafe, and everyone kept getting stabbed at the pool hall. So I was like, I'm gonna go hang out at the internet cafe. And so yeah, we just started playing there. And back then it was like Dota 2, like Dota in Warcraft maps, Counter Strike, Diablo 2, and WoW. That was pretty much the only games people played. So it was a very easy transition.
Sounds like it was a smart choice, a bit safer at the internet cafe than maybe down the pool
Yeah, well, the
hall.
pool hall closed down because people kept getting stabbed, so it didn't last very long either. So it was, luckily, I went with the internet cafe. So
How do you feel about sort of the rise of places like Fortress Sydney, and I think there's one in Melbourne as well nowadays, like bringing that sort of vibe back?
they're great. Like I have this conversation all the time on stream. I don't know how the hell they're covering their costs, but I mean it's a cool environment. You know what I mean? I don't know how they're making money or if they're making money. It's a cool place. I've been to both the locations loads of times. We've done plenty of events. We filmed something recently with I played D&D with a group called Zach Speaks Giant, and yeah, we filmed like a Dungeons and Dragons in real life, so we didn't use dice to roll. We like had to, if you wanted to shoot a bow, you had to shoot a bow, stuff like that. It was really cool, and like the locations there are phenomenal. But yeah, I don't know how many people are going to internet cafes these days. So.
Yep. So then, obviously, you were a fan of gaming, playing games in the internet cafe constantly. What pushed you to then go, okay, now I can do streaming at home and get into the content creation space?
Um, so I think unlike a lot of people these days, I actually had no idea what streaming was. I didn't know what it was, never heard of it, any of those kinds of things. So I was in a World of Warcraft guild called Dara McTire, which is like if you know WoW, pretty much every big streamer back in the day that was a PvP player, so player versus player was in this guild. So Bajira, Swifty, Soda Poppin, all these big names for World of Warcraft were all in this guild. And I was already in there as an officer. I was quite good at PvP when I was a lot younger. And when I moved to Canada, I moved to Canada for 2 years, and I had internet that was good enough to actually play a game and watch a YouTube video at the same time because that didn't exist back then in Australia at all. And yeah, just a bunch of people from the guild were like, man, you should stream. You're a funny guy. I was like, yeah, and yeah, I just started making a few videos. The guild asked me to do a couple of things for a game called Guild Wars 2 that was coming out. They're like, we want you to be like the face of our guild for that game, and I did it, and then it just sort of went from there. It was very different these days. I think a lot of people go into the content creation world with the mindset of I'm going to make money. This is going to do what I do as a full time thing. For me, it was just I played games already. I enjoyed games. I still work full time. I work private security at the time overseas, and I was like, oh, I'll just make some videos and have fun. And then it just sort of steamrolled into this. So
Do you think that's a better mindset to go into the content creation space with, of just go in, have fun, enjoy what you're doing rather than I want to make this a career straight away?
it's probably one of the most common asked questions. If you go and do a panel at PAX and you do Q&As and stuff like that, it's the question that you get probably the most is how can I stream and make money, or how do I become a full-time streamer and pay my bills? And I'm not a big fan of that at all. Like 90% of the people that I meet that start this off with the mindset of I'm going to make money from streaming fail. right? Because you got to love it. You have to like the first 8 years of streaming full time. I stream 60 hours a week. I'm not a pro gamer. I'm not any of those types of things. So the way that I explain to people, it's like trying to do stand up comedy 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. Right now, I've taken back my hours a lot these days. I do like 45 hours a week, which is still a lot, but it's like more realistic. Yeah, I think you have to have a passion for streaming and have to want to do it as a fun thing. Because most people that I've met over the years, if that's how you start, you're way more successful.
And do you think sort of it's not so much that the live hours is the key element as well? Like these days, you really do have to be putting in that work, creating the clips, creating all the other bits of content to put out and promote the live stream.
Yeah, I mean, look, you look at one of the biggest streamers in the world. There's a kid, and I'm probably going to butcher his name. I think his name's like Jaxie or something like that. He's a Rainbow Six streamer. He's got 100,000 subscribers on Twitch. He's one of the most subscribed people on the platform. He streams 4 hours a day. But for that 4 hours he's on, he is switched on. You know what I mean? He is that 4 hours. He is back to back, full on content. It's not really my kind of content. He's like a young dude, yells and he's all over the shop and stuff like that. But I understand why he's so successful. He's on point for that 4 hours. The moment he goes live, for that 4 hours, he is just it's just content, 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 right? So I think these days there's a much if I had to start again, I would probably look at doing like 6 hours a day, 2 hours into, you know, these days, TikTok, do a YouTube short. You don't have to make this long form content anymore for YouTube. You can do, yes, you're going to get paid a lot less, but YouTube shorts work. You know what I mean? So you do TikTok, you do all these YouTube shorts, you do social media posts, you do that kind of thing, right? So I would, if it was me and I was starting again, I'd probably look at doing like 6 hours a day and then putting a couple hours a day into that kind of content.
Yep. Right. And like you mentioned, you've sort of been involved in this streaming space for over a decade now. How has the space evolved in that time?
I mean, you look at Twitch these days; it's a very different platform.
Not so much
Yeah, look,
gaming.
yeah. Look, at the end of the day, do whatever you do to make you money. You know what I mean? Like, I think Amaranth is probably the best example. People give her crap and say, look at what she did on Twitch, and look at the content she's making. Mate, she bought 3 server stations. You know what I mean? With the money that she made from doing that kind of spicy content is what I'll call it. She turned around and bought a gas station that has a 7-Eleven installed in it, 2 other gas stations, she was doing a lot of like in a pool content. She bought a pool toy company. She's brilliant. You know what I mean? People can say whatever she wants. And then she released her stats for OnlyFans and she used her Twitch to promote that in some sort of way. She made like $50 million in 2 years. If I could jump around in a pool and make 50 mil, that wouldn't be a treadmill behind you. It'd be a bloody pool. Just no one wants to see me jumping around in it, right? So I think when it comes down to, people say, oh, Twitch is a gaming platform. It should only be that. It's like, it's not though. There is some wonderful art streams on that platform. I watch people paint Games Workshop models for hours. You know what I mean? It's awesome. The musicians, you got people like the Lyrical that stream their music on there, right? There are so many great content creators that aren't gaming on there. Yes, there's a few streams that you probably don't want to see, right? But just don't watch them. Don't
Yeah,
watch them.
yeah,
Simple as
like
that for me.
it's not hard to click the little X and go to something else instead.
Yeah, yeah.
And for yourself as a streamer and content creator, how do you feel you've evolved over the years?
Look, I make this joke a lot in my stream. Look, Twitch chat for 13 years will suck the soul out of your body. You know what I mean? I'd like to think in terms of the person that I am, I'm still pretty much the same person. I'm just probably a lot more bitter and angry these days. You know what I mean? I watched a video of me, 13 years ago, and I was bubbly and lively and jumping around and stuff like that. Look, I've been doing this a long time. You know what I mean? It's not a matter of I still am so blessed and so thankful and so lucky to do this, but I've been doing the same job for 13 years now. So it's probably the same as anyone that's been doing the same thing for 13 years.
Yep, and especially anyone that's sort of been on the internet for a long time during that period,
Yeah, there's
that'll
some
change you.
vile people out there. So yeah.
Would you say that has been the hardest part of the journey, just sort of adapting to people that are kind of anonymous, just throwing horrible things at you?
This is probably not the answer Brendan wants me to give. I think the hardest part for me has been like very early days. I'm still from Western Sydney. I still had the upbringing that I've had. It was very hard for me in the early days not to be like, oh, well, I'm going to find this person and fight them. That was my mindset. I was like, you know, this guy talked about me. Okay, well, let's fight. Like I thought that's how it would work. And obviously, I'm almost 40 years old. You can't have that mindset anymore. And you shouldn't have that mindset, I guess, when you're younger either. But that was sort of the environment that I grew up in, right? I don't think that's the hardest part. You know what I mean? I think that it's people like that everywhere in the world, right? People are going to try and do that, and 90% of the time, when someone talks all this crap, it's usually some just fake profile. I've never understood that point, right? I'm very lucky. I grew up around a lot of bands, and I've toured with a lot of bands in my life, and I've got to tour with some of the biggest hardcore metal bands in the world. And I'll have friends that are in these big bands come over and be on the stream, and they're just like, I don't really get it. Like, if your mindset is that you want to create fake accounts all day and just make snarky comments or be an idiot or say these things about people, and that's all you do with your time, there is not a friend that I know from any friendship circle that I have that sits there and goes, "Whoa, that's cool. What a cool thing to do."
Mhm.
So for me, it's like I don't really get it. I don't think I'll ever understand it. I don't think I I I hope that the people that do that kind of thing aren't going to look back on it in 10 years and go, "Man, what a cool dude I was." I just don't get it. So I don't really pay too much mind to that kind of thing. So
And you mentioned sort of the long hours that you were doing in those early days. Something that I noted in the research was your 840-hour subathon stream.
yeah,
I
yeah,
can't even
no, it's
comprehend how tough that must have been.
um yeah, look, sleeping on camera is a bit of a weird one. But it was an event that I did. It's not something that I would do a lot. My partner that I'm with now is on a holiday visa, so she's only here for 12 months. So I wouldn't do that in this situation. As much as my partner at the time and I do not get along with each other, I will give credit where credit's due. Like, they were very understanding that I was going to be on camera for 37 days, right? So um, it's a very hard thing. It's more hard for the other person, I think, in your life, because I was on. That's 37 days I didn't spend with my partner. You know what I mean? There would be little things that they'd come in the streaming room or they'd take over while I have a shower or something like that. You know what I mean? But for the most part, that's 37 days separated from your life. That was the hard part about it. Obviously, monetary wise, it was phenomenal. I don't think that it'll ever happen again for me ever. I think we hit like 15,000 subs. We're in the top sort of 75 in the world, most subscribed. That was like one big month, and the tax man went yoink, and I went, ah, shit. And
Yeah.
then, we sort of went from there. Yeah. So
Yeah, you're gonna love when the taxman comes and takes half of all of that hard-earned work.
yeah, it was a bit over that actually. It was pretty insane. But yeah, yeah, it was. I mean, it was a fun event. It got the name out there, and it was a phenomenal experience. And I got to do some pretty cool things off the back of it. But yeah, it's not something I would do on a yearly basis or anything like that. Maybe in a couple of years if me and my partner decide we're going to be in Australia. So
Is that still the world record? Are you aware of?
oh no, look, even before that, there are people that like have streamed. There's a dude that's been streaming for over 600 days.
Oh, wow.
Right? So it's like I think a lot of it was myself, a guy named Ludwig who is massive, and a guy named Pig who's like a StarCraft caster from Australia. It was just us sort of versing each other. The only difference was we had like certain rates, right? So it was like I can't even remember what it was, but like one sub would add, I don't know, a minute or something like that. But I've seen subathons where if someone subs, it adds 20 minutes. So you can imagine if we put our timers to that, I would still be streaming now on the subathon hours. So I think where a lot of articles maybe clickbaited it and stuff like that, it was longest subathon ever, but that's only based off the rates that we were streaming at, where one sub equals a minute or a dollar equals 25 seconds or whatever it is, right? Because yeah, as I said, there are people that have been doing subathons for quite literally 600 plus days, but in their subathon, someone subs, it could add a day hypothetically. So.
And another question I had was, how has sort of Australian internet affected the idea of streaming? Has, like you said, back in the day, didn't have the greatest internet here in the country. It's much better now, but still, I think in comparison to other countries, not the best.
I think it's okay now. I think most households, because you only need 10 down, 10 up, right? Like if you've got 10 down, 10 up, you're fine, right? So you don't need 1,000 down, 1,000 up. It's not going to do anything for you. I don't really know anyone that streams over 6 bit rate anyway. And you shouldn't really bother streaming over 6 bit rate, is what technicians from Twitch tell me. So yeah, if you've got 10 down, 10 up, you're fine. Just means you're going to be downloading a game slower, obviously. I think the problem that we have in Australia is I like doing a lot of IRL streams, and I've even got one of the IRL backpacks, they're called, which you use like a little piece of equipment that can have multiple connections and stuff. But the problem with IRL streaming in Australia is like the internet is very like choppy outside. So if I want to go
Mhm.
and ride my bike and then I go out, the internet will be fine, cuts out, stream drops, you lose all your viewers, comes back on, you get start viewing viewers again, drops out, stuff like that. So I think there's like two dudes in Australia that have mobile Starlink like setups, and so when they walk around they have like literal Starlink setups that they walk around with, and that's how they're able to IRL stream. So yeah, that's
Wow.
I think the biggest issue.
Okay. Okay. So now, as we move ahead to the Project Panda initiative, which is a charity aimed at assisting homeless and disadvantaged youth, can you talk to me about the inspiration behind that and what it involves?
Yeah, so I'm not very good with sort of social media stuff, and I haven't been over the last 13 years. I don't really jump on the TikTok bandwagon like I should have when it first came out and stuff like that. I've always sort of said like, look, I put way more time into streaming, and I'm a lot more consistent than a lot of people are. I don't take long breaks or anything like that. And so that's where my focus has been. But a couple of years ago, there's a guy, and I'm probably going to butcher his name. His name is Just K Nate on TikTok, and he does similar thing, right? He sort of walks up and he sort of says, you know, if you had $100, what would you spend it on today? And he goes around and talks to homeless people. And he sort of says, like, you know, what can I do to help, and offers to get them lunch and stuff like that. And I watched his videos a couple of years ago, and I was like, obviously, we're sort of my backstory. I was on the street when I was a lot younger, and I was like, I'd love to be able to use my platform to do something like this. And at first, I was, I was pumping a couple of grand into this and trying to raise, money on stream. But I was definitely, and even now, I'm spending a lot more than I raise. But yeah, I just sort of saw his videos and I was like, I think this is something that I can do, and I'm not sort of scared to get out there and talk to people and sit down and have a conversation. I have no judgment in me, if people are on drugs or people are, we've had a few people try and get a little bit angry, and I'm not the kind of person that's going to shy away from them. I'm like, look, man, I'm just trying to help. If you don't want a backpack, you don't want me to be there for you. That's more than fine. We don't have to get into it or anything. I just want to try and help out where I can, or I'll go and offer to buy you some food, and that's it. So for me, the inspiration comes from sort of where I came from, and then I saw this account of someone else doing it, and I was like, I like this. Um, I should probably stop spending a lot more than I'm raising. It's probably a smart thing to do, but for now, it's all right. As long as my bills are paid, I'm happy.
Okay. And is it just like you give a person a backpack with sort of essential supplies and stuff in it?
So it sort of started out as I was just buying, toiletries and a couple of shirts, underwear, socks, hand warmers, toe warmers. But now it's now we've got toothbrush, toothpaste, soaps, wipes, tissues, long term snacks, like the sesame bars and muesli bars that have like an expiry date of a couple of years, uh, packets of chips, tiny teddies. There's loads of stuff in there now. And I was very lucky where a guy reached out who owns a company called Kismet. Reached out and said, "Hey, look, I'd really love to get behind this," and sort of we discussed a way that maybe I can take a day, a week off stream and continue to do this, and then maybe in a year from now, look at getting some government grants and stuff like that, and really put some time into it. In an ideal world, I would love to. I would, from this guy's understanding, he thinks, in his opinion, that my stream is the biggest boost that I can give to Project Panda. He's like, I don't want you to stop streaming. I want you to continue to stream because that's your strongest platform that you have. And I've also, over the years, I've done a lot of speaking in high schools about cyberbullying. I speak at, I've gone to rehabilitation centers for kids with autism, and sort of sat there and talked about gaming and played games with them and stuff like that. And I've done a lot of work with Big Brother and Big Sister programs and youth centers and all those kinds of things. So the Project Panda isn't just the backpacks; it's sort of everything that I've done over the years into one thing. Whether it be talking about streaming, or talking about my journey with streaming, or talking about sort of my background of where I came from to where I'm at now. And it's just a way to be able to roll all of those things into one thing, and that's sort of what I'm trying to build. And in an ideal world, I would love to, in a couple of years from now, stream 3 days a week and then put 3 days a week into Project Panda. Would be my sort of ideal dream.
Okay. Yeah, so it all sort of feeds back from from your history and now trying to sort of give back a little bit as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you mentioned sort of shifting the focus so it's kind of split evenly between the two. Is that the key balance that you're aiming for, or would you like to potentially see Project Panda when you sort of want to retire from the streaming world, step into and just focus on Project Panda moving forward?
My dream job has always been youth work. You know what I mean? I'm well aware that, youth work is doesn't pay very well and all those kinds of things, and so it'd be a very hard transition for me. Um, but I think with the Project Panda thing, I agree with the guy that sort of helped me out with all of this. I agree that streaming is probably my strongest platform and will always be my strongest platform of how I can help people. So I think I'd still like to continue to stream, 2 days a week or 3 days a week for a very long time to come. And even if it ends up being like a 2 day a week thing, and then I'm working on Project Panda 4 days a week, um, it would just be a matter of how feasible that is. If I get funding where I can do this a lot more. Um, and get out there and hit the streets and go to youth centers and do all these kinds of things. It's just a matter of I think the stream will always be there just because I think I can help a lot more people with it.
Yep. Yeah, and like yeah, you've always got your own sort of town square platform to spread the message that way.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Alrighty. So as we close, I just wanted to sort of get your top tips for someone starting. Is it just to go in and enjoy it and then like obviously not start? You don't need the best equipment to begin with?
Yeah, look, you gotta stream to have fun. Right. It just has to be fun for you, right? And the biggest thing the thing I'll say the most is consistency is key. If you can only be on 2 hours a week, be on for that same 2 hours a week. Because if people enjoy your content, they need to know when they can find you, right? And I'm horrible at this myself over the years. I've switched my streaming hours and done all these things and tried different hours, but it's the same advice I would give to anyone. It's one, don't go out and spend $10,000 on a setup. One of the most that kid that I talked about before, he uses just a crap headset. The webcam looks like it's in 380p. You know what I mean? It's horrible, but he averages 100,000 subscribers. There's a lot of people on this platform where their shtick is that their mic is crap, and people love it. They average thousands of viewers. They have just a basic C920 Logitech webcam, and they'll use that for the first 5 to 6 years of their stream. I know streamers that have done really well, upgraded all their equipment, and everyone's like, I don't like this anymore. And now you're just like everyone else. So it's don't go out there and spend $5,000 on a setup. Which I guess at this point in life, that'll only buy you a video card anyway, because everything's so expensive. But yeah, you don't need all that. And then when it comes to the streaming side, just have fun. Just if you enjoy Stardew Valley or whatever the hell it's called, play Stardew Valley. If you enjoy World of Warcraft, play World of Warcraft. If you enjoy Call of Duty, play Call of Duty. It's just as simple as that. So you can play Diablo 4. There's like 4 people streaming that game these days. So just go and play Diablo 4. You'll get recognized pretty quickly. So
Yep, yeah, I would agree. I think consistency and authenticity, like with all of my content since I launched my podcast, haven't missed an episode in like nearly 300 episodes.
that's
Um,
it.
the the interviews and everything, they're always up at the same time every week. So yeah, that consistency and authenticity. I'm interviewing people I just want to chat to, people that I find interesting, not necessarily like, oh, this is going to be the biggest name in the world and get me recognition. Like let's just chat to people with inspiring and interesting stories.
I think when it comes to the streaming side with that kind of content as well, I've always been told, and even Twitch himself have told me that I'm very silly, where you should host up. So when you're in the stream, you can host someone and send all your viewers to them. And they've always told me for years, they're like, you should host up so bigger people will return the favor and stuff like that. And I've always hosted. I don't. It sounds not very nice, but I host down a lot. Where like there are so many good content creators in our region, and they like Jack Hutto is a great example. That guy work full time and he streams full time hours. Wonderful content creator, doesn't get many views, right? So I'll throw someone like Jack a host because we have so many great content creators in this region, and I think it is probably not the smart thing to do. Like I said, Twitch himself, like host up so your name gets out there more. But and if my bills are paid, I'm happy. I'm not out here trying to become a gazillionaire, millionaire from streaming. If my bills are paid, I'm happy and I enjoy what I do. And I've been able to do that for the last 13 years. If that means that it lasts another couple of years, so be it. If that means it lasts 12 years, or I mean, like another 12 years, so be it. But as long as I'm happy and I'm proud of the content that I'm making and proud of who I am at the end of this journey, I'll be happy.
Yep. And I think that again speaks to your sort of charitable side as well. Like you're trying to lift other people up and drag them up with you.
There's a lot of room in this content space. I think people forget that. There's a lot of people that'll walk over other people's back, and I think there is room for everyone in this industry. So
Yep. Alrighty. So finally, where is the best place for people to support you and track your creative journey moving forward?
Panda TV on Twitch. I'm live pretty much every day besides Saturdays, which might swap to Sundays depending on my partner's work schedule. Yeah, and Panda TV OCE on Twitter, Instagram. I got verified the other day on Instagram. I guess I should use it. And then TikTok, we try and do a lot of the Project Panda stuff. So it's not very big on there, but I try and pump out videos there. Well, a guy named Rick pumps out videos for me. So thank you, Rick, if you watch this.
Awesome. All right. I'll put all the links there. And thank you for taking time to chat with me. And good luck with everything. And good luck with the Project Panda.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.